Hi, hello, my name is Zane, Alderman, and welcome to my Senior X. So my first thoughts, the idea is, I first thought about wood turning. I took wood shop my first semester of my senior year, and it was something I kind of wanted to try, but just decided against it. Didn't really feel it. And then I thought about something sports related because I've always been involved in sports. I love sports, so that was another thing I thought about, but just decided against it. And so I also thought about, I wanted to do something that wasn't only just fun, but something that was interesting, and more importantly, something that could benefit my family and others. So this kind of brought me my topic of schizophrenia. So I chose schizophrenia because the illness directly impacts my family, and I had a lot to learn about this topic. So this led to my essential question: how can learning about schizophrenia help my family and the community? So what is schizophrenia? Schizophrenia is a common term, but most people really don't understand it. This is a basic definition from the Complete Family Guide to Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is an illness characterized by problems in social functioning, self-care skills, and difficulty distinguishing what's real and what's not real. Here's a short video.
The misunderstood psychological disorder of them all, even among psychologists. Maybe because it's pretty rare, affecting about 1% of the population, schizophrenia causes more anxiety in the media, in the public, and even in doctors' offices than any other mental illness. As a result, its sufferers have often been shunned, abused, or locked up. And among the many fallacies that surround the disorder is simply what it means. The word schizophrenia literally means split mind, but contrary to popular belief, the condition has nothing to do with a split in personality or multiple personalities. The term refers instead to what's sometimes called a split from reality. Multiple personality disorder, now known as dissociative identity disorder, is a totally different type of condition, a kind of dissociative disorder. And these two are shrouded in misconceptions, partly because they were the subject of probably the greatest psychological hoax of all time. While many of us can relate on some level to the emotional swings, nervousness, and compulsions that come with mood and anxiety disorders, it can be a lot harder for those without direct experience to relate to the symptoms of schizophrenia and dissociation. Unfortunately, we tend to fear and avoid what we don't understand in each other, whether it's a friend or family member or just some stranger on the bus. But thankfully, part of the psychologist's job is to demystify the things that can happen in our heads, and as is often the case, understanding may be the key to compassion.
So, schizophrenia and my family connection. So in the top right corner, you can see that's my grandfather. So in January 2018, my grandfather, who I've never met before, was found. What does that mean? In 1974, soon after my mom was born, my grandfather was diagnosed with schizophrenia. In 1985, he walked away from his family, my mom and her two sisters, when she was just in middle school. No one knew where he was or what happened to him. He just kind of disappeared, didn't tell anybody where he was going, had no clue, nobody knew anything about him. He didn't even pack anything or anything like that, but just disappeared, took off. In January of 2018, a kind man picked up a homeless man walking on the side of a road in Illinois on a very cold temperature night. He fed the man and gave him a warm place to sleep, and the following morning he talked to the man, asked him what he was doing and who he is. That man turned out to be my grandfather. He'd been walking back and forth between Iowa and DuQuoin, Illinois for 33 years. That's the track he took from Dubuque, Iowa to DuQuoin, Illinois. It's about 390 miles one way. So that's where he was. This is where my story really begins with schizophrenia. This is what sparked my interest and wanted to learn about it. So I had a lot of questions when I first started. My mom saw her dad again in January 2018, about after 33 years. I got to meet my grandfather for the first time this last August in 2018. It was a really cool reunion. The illness did cause some limitations. For example, my grandfather does believe that all of his family members are dead, so we did not tell him that we're his family members. We told him our names, but we thought about pushing the family idea would be a little bit too hard for him. So My prior knowledge, I really did not know that much about schizophrenia when I first started. I knew that it was a mental illness. I knew that people with schizophrenia suffered from delusions, can't tell real from not real. I knew that it ran in my family, and that's really about all I knew. Some of my questions and unknowns, was it just me, or were others clueless when it came to this illness? Was it something that I could get? Would he ever know us as his family, and what could our family do to help him live a better life? This is where this is my mentor, Heather Davis. Heather has her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology and been working in the mental health field for 17 years. She's currently pursuing her master's in counseling. What made Heather such a perfect choice for my mentor is she has her own experience with someone with schizophrenia, so she knows all about like what I've been through, my family's gone through, so that's what made her a perfect choice. What happened in our first mentor meeting? My mentor and I shared our experiences with schizophrenia and what we knew about the illness. I realized that I knew very little compared to what she did. I mean, she's a master when it comes to stuff like this. Heather helped me find articles and a book so I could start reading and researching as much as possible, so I started reading. Strategic thinking and planning. I struggle with how to limit the research. This topic in general there's so much to learn about. I mean, you can go and take it in many different directions. So I struggled with research and limit the research. I wondered what other people knew and how I could find out. Ms. Dillon, my senior X advisor, gave me a great idea to survey the NDIHS community and figure out what they knew about it. So I developed a survey and questions to find out what others knew about schizophrenia. Here's some myths from the Complete Family Guide to Schizophrenia. There are some common myths about schizophrenia. So myth number 1, people with schizophrenia have a split personality. I wondered about the split personality myth when I first thought about it. My grandfather seemed to go back and forth between reality and delusional, so it's kind of like he thought with 2 different brains. Myth number 2, people with schizophrenia are highly prone to violence. I knew this was something that others believed because when I went to visit my grandfather for the first time, people were worried about us, thought he might hurt us. And myth number 3, drugs and alcohol can cause schizophrenia. I never really even thought about what caused schizophrenia before it, but I knew that there were many misperceptions about it. I wanted to learn the truth and share it with others. But first, I need to find out what people actually knew about it. So here's some survey results. This is like how familiar is our community with schizophrenia? Did they share the same misperceptions as I did? So 170 students and teachers responded to my survey. So this is one of the first questions. Have you ever heard of schizophrenia? Close to 9% of people have never heard of it or anything about it. Have you ever interacted with someone who has schizophrenia? Almost 18% have interacted with someone who has it. This is nice to know that there's others here at NBIHS that have interacted and have the same experience as I have. What interaction with someone who has been diagnosed with schizophrenia made you nervous or uncomfortable? Close to 34% said interaction with someone diagnosed with schizophrenia would make them nervous. According to the paper, stigmatization of people with schizophrenia, stereotyping of people with schizophrenia is a huge problem in the past recent years, and it's just a recognized problem all around the world. Some more survey results. Believe people with schizophrenia have a split personality. Around 28% said they think people with schizophrenia do have a split personality. Think that drugs and alcohol can cause schizophrenia. About 35% think that drugs and alcohol can cause schizophrenia. Believe that people with schizophrenia are highly prone to violence. About 30% of people believe that people with schizophrenia are highly prone to violence. This is one of the questions on a scale of 1 to 5, how knowledgeable are you of schizophrenia? So as the NDIHS community is not very knowledgeable of schizophrenia. Most people are in the 2-year range. This is similar to what I knew before I started to learn about this topic and started researching. I'm hoping that this presentation will shed some light on the illness and not only help me and my family, but others in the community as well. So what I learned schizophrenia is a major illness. It can have a huge effect on the day-to-day functioning of those who have it, whether it's in school or work, in social relationships, or in the ability to take care of themselves. Most people think of schizophrenia as an illness with hallucinations or delusions. This is definitely true for my grandfather. He is very delusional sometimes. He tells amazing stories that are mixed with delusions and actual memories. It's really cool to hear about it. Like, he'll talk about the stories of him flying his three-wheeler car and digging tunnels under the town where Mom used to grow up. Some more about schizophrenia. Mental health professionals know that schizophrenia is different in how it affects people. Those with schizophrenia have trouble telling the difference between what's real and what's not real. There's strong evidence that schizophrenia has some biological causes, meaning it may be caused by an imbalance of chemicals in the brain. That's why medication is important and stress must be minimized for someone that has the mental illness to help balance those chemicals in their brains. There is no test to actually diagnose schizophrenia. Diagnosis is based on a careful interview by a trained professional. From the paper Social Workers as Family Educators about Schizophrenia, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, otherwise known as DSM, has criteria for diagnosing schizophrenia. Here's some facts. 1 in 100 or 1% of people actually develop schizophrenia at some point in their lifetime. In the US, 2 to 3 million people have the illness. It occurs in men, women of all races, social classes, religions, and cultures. It's more likely of those living in poverty in urban areas where stress is higher. About 10% of all homeless people have schizophrenia, and schizophrenia in women is not usually as intense as it can be in men. So, progression of the illness. Schizophrenia usually develops sometime during late adolescence or early adulthood, mostly between the ages of 16 and 30. It rarely develops after the age of 35. It usually follows a gradual decline in functioning and ability to socialize and enjoy life. Symptoms change in intensity over time, and people with schizophrenia tend to improve gradually over time. They learn to manage the illness by themselves. There's usually a normal decrease in symptoms. A significant number of people with the illness usually become totally free of symptoms later in their lifetime. This is really great to hear. This shows that like my grandfather could have a future not getting rid of it, but helping him take care of it, control it. About 42% to 68% of people with schizophrenia experience a full recovery or substantially improve over their lifetime. So here's a graph that talks about your chances of getting or developing schizophrenia. So if you have no relative, just the normal 1% chance. Aunt or uncle, just 2 to 3% chance, and a parent or sibling is 5 to 10% chance. This answers one of my questions from before. If I could get schizophrenia because my grandfather has it, this shows no relative, I just have a 1% chance as normal as everybody else does. So where do I go from here? According to the Complete Family Guide of Schizophrenia, many people with schizophrenia do not have an understanding of their illness. They don't usually believe the problem actually exists. They don't really believe anything's actually wrong with them. It makes it very difficult to help them. This is kind of like my grandfather's case. He doesn't think anything's wrong with him, so we can't really help him in a way. It's kind of hard for us to do that. I've learned that success is not the same for everybody. You have to appreciate the small successes. There are chances of success hoping and living a functional life with treatment. Drug treatment can work, but it's not easy. It's very expensive. You need insurance and service providers. Drug treatments are very expensive, and they also affect each person differently. You have to find like the right drug. It doesn't affect the different drugs that affect different people with the disease, with the illness. So back to my essential question: how can learning about schizophrenia help my family and the community? Learning about schizophrenia can help me and my family connect with my grandfather. I've learned a lot about the illness and understanding need to be patient and supportive. Success is different for everybody, for everyone. I've also shared my data collected with the MBI Mental Health Collaborative. so they have an idea of what people in our community know and don't know. Hopefully we can start breaking down stereotypes and sharing the facts, not the myths about this illness. So my final thought from the Complete Family Guide to Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is no one's fault, and we can do a lot to help our friends and family with this illness achieve a meaningful and rewarding life. And this is just some pictures of my family when we went to go see him. There, we got him a Maine hat. He's got to rep the state. I want to give a huge shout out to my mentor, Heather Davis, for helping me along with this and making this project awesome. Miss Dillon for keeping me on track and getting my project done in time. My family for all the support that they've given me throughout doing this project. And I'd like to thank my grandfather for, just giving me the idea and being just a great person and pushing through what he's pushing through. So, yeah, and that's Christmas.
Does anyone have any questions for Zane?
It's more of a comment, but it's really cool to see you dive into such a mature topic and actually get really serious about something. And I think you did a really good job.
Thank you.
I like that it's very personal to your own life.
Mhm.
It's something that is going to help you have compassion and empathy to deal with this person who you'll deal with for your
Absolutely.
lifetime. Right? So that's a good thing to have that personal thread to it.
Mhm.
Anyone else?
I did. When you went to meet your grandmother, how did you prepare for that? You had such a knowledge. You wanted to investigate this, it seemed after you met him.
Mhm.
So how did you and your family prepare for that meeting?
Well, I think when we all found out that he was alive and when that man picked him up from that night, we all, I remember walking into my living room and my mom told me about it and I was completely surprised. I was like, oh my goodness. And she told me that he was going to go see him first, and she went out and flew to him because she was extremely excited to meet him. It's been 33 years. I think that we all know that he has schizophrenia, but in my mom's mind, that's still her dad, and that's still my grandfather, so none of us were worried about it at all. I was really excited to just meet him for the first time, so we just, wasn't a lot of mental preparing, it was just excitement for all of us and going to meet a relative for the first time, so.
Can I build on more of those? So part of your theme was to how this can impact the community, and I leave with this question: if you had access, you and your family, or how would you want a health system such as MDI Hospital to help move this forward in our community?
I would say, I think the first step in helping the community with this is just breaking the stereotypes is the biggest thing for me. Because I would love for one day to walk into a store with my grandfather and not have people think that he's crazy or something like that, or be worried that he's in a store with them. That's the biggest thing for me, is breaking the stereotypes and thinking that not everybody with this mental illness is a dangerous human being. They struggle with something that they have no control over. It's something that they developed on their own. They didn't ask for it. But it's something that they have to deal with. And some people, like my grandfather, he's easily one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And he'll go into stores, he'll be fine. I think that the first step is breaking the stereotypes and stuff like that.
Where is your grandfather now?
He is in Des Moines, Illinois. My aunt recently purchased him a small, tiny house. He has his little cat. That's his favorite thing, is his little kitten. And he loves fishing. I know that. He goes fishing almost every day. So he does his thing. He just chills out at his home, and has a good time. Lives his life.
Great job, and I'm so pleased that you had such a large number of respondents. That is
Yeah, I was excited
unique.
about that.
And that you shared it with a community resource that might be able to move this forward, as you suggested. You brought up an very interesting statistic that also touches upon your grandfather's experience, and that's in regards to the homeless population. If 1% of the people in the United States, 2 to 3 million, have schizophrenia or had an experience with schizophrenia, and 10% of the homeless population has schizophrenia, that's a very large number, right? So I'm just wondering what you might, just off the top of your head, think in terms of like our little organization here on the island. I mean, how there's a lot of stereotype about the homeless population. So there's layers of stereotype of the population. What do you think might be helpful in terms of the homeless population? You can imagine who your grandfather was before he was in a tiny house living a semblance of, you know, or before he was with your family.
I mean,
How could that
that's a good question.
be addressed?
I'd say, like, the reason that we reconnected with my grandfather is all it was one kind guy just driving home from work, and he just saw some guy walking in below 0 weather when in the winter, and he just stopped, asked him who he was and stuff like that. I mean, in the world, there's so many homeless people everywhere. I mean, it's terrible to see. I hate seeing that, but like, I think it's just kindness that come out of people's hearts that can just do that one little thing. I mean, the one guy that stopped his break and asked some guy who he was connected me with my family again and had my mom see her dad for the first time in 33 years. I mean, I guess there's not really one solution for it. It's a really, like, there's not really one solution, but I just think kindness, I guess, is the thing you can do, the thing you can help, so.
And to build on what Molly just asked you, is your grandfather now receiving support services? Has he been connected with behavioral health specialists? Is he taking medications or finding financial access to those medications?
He is not, actually. He is taking, I guess, what I'd say is there's like 2 routes if you have schizophrenia. There's like the medical route you could go and how the doctors and medicine and stuff help you like that. And then I always call it my grandfather's route. And it's just him doing the things that he enjoys to do. And so I think that's why he goes fishing all the time. He loves going fishing because that's what really calms him down. He doesn't hear all these things that hear the voices that people with schizophrenia would hear. It's just he does the things that would calm him down and make him happy. And that's what he does instead of like medicine and stuff.
As you further progress your knowledge of schizophrenia and as you move on to post-secondary education, how do you think that this knowledge of this idea and concept is going to help you as you study whatever major you're going into?
Don't really know how it would help in my future endeavors with school. I just think that I really wanted to learn about this topic because of like my grandfather's stuff, and I've only visited him once, and my aunt is there all the time. She helps him. She goes grocery shopping with him every 2 weeks. Basically, in this project, it's just the hope to reconnect with my grandfather, understand what he did, understand how he's feeling, and just have him have a better life with our help. So.
And were you surprised with the survey result?
I was a little bit. I was surprised with the question that asked if you had ever interacted with somebody who has schizophrenia, because I know it's such like an uncommon disease, like mental illness. So when I saw that many responses that said yes, I have. I mean, it wasn't that many, but there was still a significant amount. So I was surprised with that, and I was also surprised with how many people answered. I was really excited about that to see that.
I thought that was a great denominator. My other question around that, because the last question you asked really demonstrated that probably many people didn't truly understand the disease. And when you look at that bell curve, they didn't. So maybe they think they have that stereotypical perception of what schizophrenia represents.
Yeah.
And felt that they have had that interaction too. I think that's powerful data you presented.
Absolutely.